continue joining.
Yes. Good morning. Welcome to a webinar on farmer-centric innovation and digital innovation hubs. I'm really happy that we managed to create this webinar. The idea for the webinar arose quite some time ago. In SmartAgriHubs, we did a needs assessment, so what is really needed in the community of digital innovation hubs in the agri-food sector, and one of the topics that arose from that was how to do innovation with farmers. And there were some people that actually volunteered to pick this topic up. And today I'm really proud that we have created this and added to our portfolio of webinars. So today we have three presenters. Can you go back one more slide, please? Yes, that's my colleague Caroline van der Weerdt, representing the SmartAgriHubs, and she's from TNO. Mireille van Hilten from Wageningen University, representing IOF, and Jurgen Vangeyte, representing ILVO, and he's participating in both IOF and SmartAgriHubs. Not sure if I introduced myself. My name is Frank Berkers, and I am the work package lead in SmartAgriHubs on the work package on capability development for digital innovation hubs. Yes, please, next slide, Caroline. We have some house rules in the webinar. The webinar will be recorded. The materials for the webinar will be shared after the event on the innovation portal of SmartAgriHubs. Please stay muted unless you are speaking, and please close your camera unless you are presenting. Leave your questions in the chat so we can have a look at it and moderate the presentations. Thank you for keeping these rules that will keep this webinar run smoothly. Yes, on the agenda for today we have 4 topics. The first is impactful innovation and the end user. So that will be done by Caroline. Then farmer centricity in the prototype phase, done by Mireille. And then farmer-centric innovation in practice. That will be done by Jurgen. In the end, we will have some time for Q&A. Please enjoy the presentations. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Frank. I will take over from here. And now okay, there I am. So the reason I'm showing you this, if people have heard some of my presentations before, you might have seen this example already, but it's just an example that speaks to the imagination still. It's a Segway example. I think we all know it, the Segway. What I don't think we all know is that the intention for the Segway was actually not to be used only for office outings, little parties, and in warehouses, but it was actually intended to take over the world. The business case that was originally made was estimating over 1 billion Segways sold at some point. Unbelievable, but that was the goal, because it's an excellent product, right? It's so handy. You can move around quickly, and it works like a charm. But we never made the 1 billion. It stuck to the warehouses and the company outings. So why is that? Why can something that is technologically really sound become a failure in practice? Well, I think the second one here, it's a product, not a solution, is actually, I think, the most relevant thing that is also for us to take on board while innovating digitally in the agri sector. Are we actually creating products, or are we creating solutions that fit into the context of who we're innovating for? And this is again an example I like to use just to become aware of what is the difference between a great technological product and the solution. So how do we then take that step to think of what is actually a solution? Well, I always say it is not rocket science what we do at TNO. It's very simple. It's actually what we do in daily practice as well when we relate to other people. We empathize. The first step is not on how to optimize your digital innovation from an ICT perspective or an efficiency perspective. No, it's to optimize from an empathy perspective. Look through the eyes of the ones you're innovating for. See them as humans in their daily practice, and also talk to them. And like I said, it's always quite simple to actually envision what your end user wants just by relating and connecting. So today we're going to touch upon some methodologies and tools for impactful innovation. And when we say impactful, it means that we really it really evolves around the ones we are innovating for, as to ensure that our solutions will actually be adopted. That's what we mean by impact. And below you see a really simple design or innovation cycle. That's not the focus of today. You can make it far more extensive. But this is kind of the how we're going to lead you through our methodologies for today. So how to be end user farmer-centric in the ideation phase and in the prototyping phase. And you see in the top right corner, that's a quote from EEP Agri, ones we all know and are connected to. I added that because, of course, the end user is not always necessarily a farmer, and also the empathizing does not always necessarily evolve around the farmer alone. We're very much aware of that. The examples of today, however, will focus around the farmer, but the key is, of course, to empathize with all the parties that are involved. So I'm going to give you some examples of how we actually had farmer central in our innovation process in another project that we did. That was actually the smart dairy farming project that ran for about 6 years in the Netherlands. And that project was evolved around precision dairy and creating digital solutions to empower farmers to become precision dairy farmers. So the end goal was to create data sharing solutions, and in the end an app and interfaces for the farmer to equip him or her to implement precision farming on the farm. The nice thing about this project was that farmer centricity was actually key from the beginning on. It didn't only start with technological solutions or data sharing solutions, but from the get-go, we had the farmers involved. Also in the ideation phase, just to sit with them and recognize with them what their current needs actually are. So that's also the steps that we took. First of all, we took a very genuine, and actually it was also very confronting view of how current value and data streams are evolving or circling around the farmer. And then you see it on the right, that's really small. And by the way, for everything I say, if you want to have more information on it or documents on it later, please feel free to ask. Everything is available. But when we did that, you see the little yellow thing in the middle, that's the farmer. And what you cannot see in this slide, but is that actually all the value streams are going away from the farmer. Except for some bills here and there, and everything is going away, and some money, of course, coming in. But information streams, data streams, of course, the produce is all going away from the farm and not back. And that was something that created actually like a greenfield situation on how fair is actually the value, the division of value in what we're doing. And the next thing we did is then from that standpoint and how it is to be a farmer in this context, we made some farmer personas because we also really recognized that you have farmers that really enjoy mostly to be out, to be on their lands, but you also have more and more the manager type of farmers, and they could have different needs regarding how they want to be supported in their decision making. And we made that come alive through storyboards. And then in the end, we also applied a really user-centric model to make the requirement list for the apps. I'm going to show you that. So this is an example of the storyboards we made for one type of farmer. And in the top left corner, you see we also looked at value, not from a monetary perspective, but also from a human perspective. It's very interesting to notice that if you don't address people's values, what they find important, for instance, if they are a bit risk averse, or if they feel a strong connection, if they're really motivated by being connected to others, that's something that you can also take into account in your design. Again, I'm going through it quickly, but everything is available if you're interested. And lastly, this is the user-centric model that we applied to designing the precision dairy apps and really the farmer-centric apps. And what you see here is that we also regarded the functionality actually on 3 levels. Again, the meaning, that is that value that we talked about. Do we want to address the feeling of autonomy with a farmer, or do we want to address the feeling of security, or both? Or, not unimportant, do we want to make it really fun? Then the interactics level is really how do the functions work and at what time, and how do you make sure that not in the middle of the night a buzzer goes off because a calf, for instance, needs attention. How do you prioritize what? And the aesthetics is also really important. What does it look like? How does it feel? And how can it be used in practice? And also for this, just a moment, I have to, yeah, this one. We have found out in our research that autonomy, competence, and security are the most important farmer values overall. So not to compromise a decision support system for precision farming should not compromise a farmer's autonomy, and should not compromise a feeling of competence. I can do this myself as well, and of course be secure. And then we actually we could say to the ones who were about to design the app that a farmer should be able to decide what decisions then immediately also lead to automated actions. Or we also said create a learning mechanism that a farmer decides to adhere to a decision or a proposal, have the farmer add that to the program, say, okay, I'm going to follow this, or I'm not, and for what reason, give feedback on the result, and then you create a learning mechanism between the farmer and the system, which we have found really leads to a much more increase in adoption of a system in the end. So finishing off, what does this all mean for hubs? We're going to go into this later as well with Jurgen. But if you divide the services of the hubs that we recognize within SmartAgriHubs into the 3 topics of business, ecosystem, and technological, then the examples I mentioned before are actually really one-on-one. It can be related to services of hubs. that stakeholder mapping and the value stream mapping. So it's not only the stakeholder mapping, but it's also how those streams go to really become aware of where the pressures are. And of course, the hub has access to an ecosystem for that interactive co-creation. And of course, hubs, many of them are outfitted to do prototyping. And that's actually what Mireille will tell more about. On the right, I have an example of a flagship innovation experiment of SmartAgriHubs, one that is really totally farmer-centric. And Vincent offered to, if you want to have a concrete flagship innovation experiment example, please reach out to Vincent. I'd like to go on to Mireille now for to tell more about farmer-centric innovation in the prototype phase. And Mireille, would you like me to do the clicking?
No, I'll share my screen.
Good.
And just give me a second there. To move some things around. Good morning, everybody, by the way. I'll introduce myself in a second. Okay. All right. Yeah, my name is Mireille van Hilten, and I'm with Wageningen Economic Research, or Wageningen. Yeah, I'm very pleased to be invited to talk to this topic. I've been involved in user collaboration or user testing or improvements together with users throughout my career in several different roles. I have a background in information technology, and I'm now researching digital innovation here in IOF 2020, but also in other very interesting projects. And what I want to do today is share with you some of the experience that we have within IOF 2020. Let me go to the right slide though, because this is the first slide of the PowerPoint. Give me another second. And another second. Okay, I'll just do it differently. So it's very nice to see how our stories actually match pretty well, Caroline, because I'm going to pick it up from here, talk about the prototype phase. But first, it should be said that involving users or testing with users, what I'm going to be talking about a little more, is actually done in all phases, right? So let that be clear. I would like to address what testing could mean in relation to user collaboration or user centricity, or in our case, farmer centricity. So how do we actually involve farmers, and what are some of the best practices from IOF 2020? And it all also depends on which type of development cycle you choose to use during the development of the software or of the technology or IoT solution. So traditionally we see more waterfall type of developments where it's one phase after another, but you can go towards the right here on the screen in a more interactive way with users, developing with them. And it can be also incremental. So we're not going to develop the system all in one go, but start off with small bits and pieces and implement functioning subsets of the functionality as we go along. So this is something else we can talk about for a long time. It doesn't change the story. The story is still the same, that you should involve your users as much as you can. In this case, in our case, the farmer. So whatever development cycle, you're going to have several stages. You're going to be working with an incremental system that you can develop slowly as you go along. The most important thing, though, regardless of the type of development cycle, are the requirements. So exactly like Caroline said, during the design phases, those should be really drawn up with the user. And then you could actually already consider that as a form of testing. As soon as you show the first designs to your users, you're already testing. But we used a different terminology in IOF, which comes from the software world. And we talk about user acceptance testing. So if we go more towards the end, the prototyping phases, or maybe the first MVP, the minimal viable product, what does the user actually need to accept the solution? And so the testing can be used to improve the product and plan future releases, but it should be about, does the user accept it? Can he use it, he or she? So for example, 3 questions here on the slide. How does the end user experience working with the product? It's very straightforward, but yeah, you really need to ask it. What was the experience during the installation of the sensors? Just a more contextual example. Is the farmer willing to pay for the solution? So in our projects, we often, we're so in such a new field in innovation that maybe we tend to work with tech-savvy farmers that really are eager to test out new solutions. But when it concerns the day-to-day operations of the farm, are they actually willing to pay for the solution, or would another farmer do that? So those are really good questions to ask, and which we did ask during IOF. Yeah, so what we did overall on the entire project, we have 33 use cases across the 5 different subsectors, or trials as we call them in IOF. For example, arable or fruit. We created a questionnaire for user acceptance testing. After we looked at the literature before, so we really dug into what should this be about, the testing. And we found, by the way, that we not only need to look at the user experience, but also does the product actually do what it's supposed to do? So usefulness. And the questionnaire we created, we initially created that in an online tool, but we told the use case leaders to take it to their end user. They could even print it, maybe translate it, and then go through it. The questionnaire was pretty long though, so we did find that we didn't always get enough results. So what we also did is create a second questionnaire and use that during meetings where we could all come together with the use cases. So there's more than one way to gather your input from the users. So they could also fill it in themselves. So it depends. Depends on the situation. Is the farmer able to get away from the farm for a minute and fill out a questionnaire himself, or does he need to be on the phone while driving on his tractor and ask the questions? So it's made more easy to him. And both of those situations occurred. And what we did, we focused mostly on the parts of the solution where the farmer actually interacted with. So not so much focused on hardware, but mostly on the interface or the parts that he actually uses. And well, after all, what we did with all this information, it's not on the slide, but of course we'll be creating a report on this with the overall results. But we also made these questionnaires available to the use cases themselves. So if they want to customize the questionnaire and ask a couple of different questions, that's also possible. And it's actually what we're doing with one use case at the moment as well. So just a little more on the technicals of it. So what we did, we used Qualtrics in the beginning as a questionnaire tool, but we've recently moved on to a platform called Reach Out. And through Reach Out, we can make the questionnaire available to you as a sort of template, or any other use case or digital innovation hub in need for a questionnaire to test. You can go on to this platform and use it. I'll show you a little later which link you could use if you're interested. And for the analysis, we used the Qualtrics tool and also Excel, and we did some analysis with R as well. And so that's maybe just a little hands-on information on how you can use that. So what did the questionnaire look like? The high-level topics of the questionnaire were usefulness. So that's about effectiveness. Can the farmer actually reach the goals that he needs to reach with the tool or not? And we also found, by the way, that sometimes the solution provides more than they expected. Ease of use, I think that's clear for everyone. The most and least important features of the solution, reasons to use it or not to use it, and of course cost and feasibility, and maybe technical barriers, because if the tool is great, the solution works perfectly, but we have we have downtime in the connection, then it's a problem to continue to use the solution maybe in real time. So very useful information that came back to us on this from this questionnaire. I'll show you one example. We asked farmers if it's important to know from fellow farmers about digital solutions. And well, about 55% agreed to this, and even 26% strongly agreed to this. So we found in our use cases that overall, it's quite important what other farmers are doing when it concerns digital innovation or digital transformation. And on the right side, you see I'm confident about using the digital solution. Also see some nice results that most farmers indeed are very confident using the digital solutions. This is just an example of what we gathered, and I'm sure our report will become available publicly as well. If you want to know more, you can reach out to me, of course. So if you want to do user acceptance testing for your own project, please keep in mind that we have very diverse solutions. So it can be a dairy solution like Caroline talked about, but it can be so different. The setups in our project are so different. So it could be very worthwhile to customize your own questionnaire. And if you like, here's the link to the Reach Out project, which is actually free of use for any other European project. So I could help you set that up if you want. You can ask me, but our questions are available as a template there. We also see if we're talking about Qualtrics, they find that 53% of their surveys are done on a mobile device. So test if it's working well on your mobile device. And also keep in mind that not all farmers, of course, are comfortable with the language, the English language or another language. So you might want to consider translating it or have a translator present. So what we found during all of these activities with this questionnaire and this testing, and we also did interviews, by the way, we did 10 interviews with the use cases, which provided some more in-depth analysis and insights. But when we talk about involving them, we should really consider the farmer perspective. Being on the farm is actually very important to them, so we can't assume that any technological solution is going to replace that. And Caroline also mentioned that, I think. The cost benefit is important and the yield is important. So their day-to-day operations and keeping the farm in a healthy position is very important. They may fear that the solution is too much tech and they have too little control, also confirming what Caroline said earlier. So they could use the decision-making support, but they actually want to take the decision themselves. They can't afford to lose a season, so they will not take huge risks if that's the question. And they also do not always live on the farm, so it may be necessary for them to travel towards the farm. All things that come up when you're trying to reach them or trying to involve them in your testing during either the prototype phase or other phases. And so if I sum that up, it's very important for the farmer that the impact of the solution is clear. What's in it for the farmer, and to constantly communicate about that. What are the goals and the benefits? Then the effort that is required from the farmer, the time investment, but also getting away from the farm operations, maybe having multiple users or farmers being available for this testing could be could be necessary, but is that doable? And then I chose a picture of a calendar here, but the what kind of activities do they need to do? We should consider the timeline here. So what is expected of them at which point in the project? Consider the change of season. So we wanted to do testing with a couple of use cases, but they said there's nothing to test. Of course, we still need to harvest our product. So something very simple. But yeah, that's what you need to take into account. And then the last item is, it often concerns a change in the way the farm works or the farmer works. So we need to consider the whole context and have the farmer on board. So we might want to make some time to do change management or let the project move forward slowly and take some time for the whole situation to improve and change. And then my final slide. What does this mean for the role of a digital innovation hub? Well, I guess, of course, collaboration with the end user in all stages, if possible, but I've already told you that it can be difficult to involve them. We need to think about their perspective. But it would be good to be acting like an intermediary between the farmer and the tech provider, or help them come together, organize communication to overcome any physical distance, certainly at these moments. And just make sure that the farmer is involved as much as possible. And remember that they could be the early adopters. They do not necessarily represent any farmer. And then we can make technology, business, and the human values all come together and work on good innovative solutions. So that was my part of it. Thank you. I think we're going to move over to Jurgen.
Yes, thank you. And Jurgen, you should have the right to present now with your slides. Thank you all, by the way, for sending some of your questions. I'm noting them down, and in the Q&A, we're going to try to address them all by the speakers.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Jurgen, we see your presenter's screen.
All right.
Not the presentation.
1 second. I need to share the other screen then. But I know. Do you want to leave the meeting? No. Okay. I seem to have a problem to convince him to see my other screen, but I will solve it by disconnecting my other monitor. So is this better?
Yes, right.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, it is perfect, Jurgen.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, but I cannot hear you for some reason. There is something. Hello?
Hello, Jurgen. Hello, Jurgen.
It looks like the connection, or you couldn't hear me anymore. Okay. Hello, is this fine now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So you can see my screen?
Yes.
The present.
Great.
All right, let's start. I will make up for the last time. So thank you very much to give us the chance to talk about how we try to do, because it's work of every day to do farmer-centric innovation. It's also the fact that we are invited gave me at least some support that we believe that we are on the right way. So that's very comfortable for us. Very short to introduce myself. Who am I? And also very important, why am I here? So I was already introduced by Frank. My name is Jurgen Vangeyte. I will not go through the full slide, but I'm leading the agri-food technology department at ILVO. And what I mainly try to be is a kind of ambassador for digital agro-food. And that is because I'm really trying to push the adoption of this technology and to make sure that we bring, like it was said before, decent solutions to our ecosystem that are of real value for end users. So what I also think is very important if you talk about something is to start with the why. Why do we need this farmer-centric innovation, or why are we convinced that we need it? Well, it's a little bit because of there is a great potential, at least if we look at AgTech. Everybody is promising great returns on investment and huge potentials, but there is a lot of very promising technology out there. If you can dream it, we can build it, is what we say. But in the end, if we look at this fantastic promise that is out there for precision farming and digital farming, we see that nearly everybody is talking about it except our farmers. So our farmers are strongly lagging behind, and all the fantastic technology that is built, they are not necessarily using it because they are left with a lot of questions. They worry about the high investment cost, about the added value, about technological problems. They ask, maybe it will work for my neighbor, but it will not work for me. So a lot of questions are out there. Our farmers are confused and not convinced. I think this was already made clear in the previous presentations. So we are fully convinced already some years that we need a clear end user involvement. Maybe since this is about the practical implementation, a very nice example or where we changed our approach was some years ago. We developed a fantastic lameness sensor. In scientific papers, our evaluation of this sensor was very good. It could detect lame cows. There was a very promising sensor, and yet we were not able to get it introduced into farms, simply because we didn't pay enough attention to the question, what does the farmer want to pay for this solution? Our solution was maybe the perfect solution, but way too expensive for the feeling, and I stress the feeling that the farmer had about lameness. The farmer is not necessarily convinced that lameness is a problem that costs him a lot of money. So in his head, he wants to invest a little bit to solve the problem, but not the amount that we thought it was necessary. And although there is a lot of literature showing that lameness is a big problem and that it will cost him a lot of money, as long as the farmer is not convinced about that and he has another idea in his head, you can come with whatever sensor you want with the best technology, he will not buy it. So and there was for us also for me a big eye opener. So what are we doing now? We created a new breed. We crossed the digital innovation hub with the living lab approach, and I will not go to the slide because I think everybody here in the meeting knows how a living lab and a digital innovation work. But we try to combine best from both sides, and from the living lab, especially, we use the idea that we have to listen to the end user, put the end user in the middle, and also test in real farming conditions. So not testing in an experimental farm where you have highly trained technicians that know how to work with the technology, that clean the lenses of your cameras, that check the sensors every day. No, you have to test your technology in the real farm where there is dirt and shit. And actually, it was Caroline who challenged me. Yeah, Jurgen, but your institute or your digital innovation hub actually is very much in contact with farmers. We have a lot of farmers that come to our hub. We work with them, we test with them, they visit us in evening meetings. How do you do that? And I didn't really had an answer on that. I had to take some time to think how we did it. And I think the main answer for us is we don't really have a very clear strategy on that. We have a culture to get in contact with farmers. So it's again a nice proof that culture, for us at least, is more important than strategy. But anyway, I will try to give you in the next 4 slides a little bit of view on how we are working and how we get in contact with farmers. Well, it starts, as I said, with the ILVO culture. The ILVO culture is totally applied in our digital, in our cross living lab working. First of all, we work integrated. You call us, we help you. We never send you to another department or say, look, this is the phone number of the guy you need. No, you connect us and we stay with you as a farmer until we have a solution for you. And also, I know it's easy to say in a slide, but difficult to do when it's weekend or late at night. We are there when the farmer needs us. We have help desk systems. We are doing, for instance, some data sharing platforms with farmers. They phone in the weekend. They phone in the evening. Late at night when they do their administration, they are blocked in your system and somebody needs to be there to help them, and somebody who understands that they work on administration when it rains and not when the sun shines, for instance. So that connects with the next sentence, understand all farmers. And I was very nice that somebody already brought the point. The farmer is not the IOF farmer. The farmer is a mix of farmers running in front, but a lot of farmers following much later. So it's important to realize that the world is not only populated by IOF farmers who are interested in testing IoT technologies. And then I think why we are able to get farmers in is that we are also trying to build bridges all the time between farmers, and policy, between farmers and industry. We try to look at their problems and try to be their ambassador. If there are other issues, even political issues, we try to bring parties together, and that's of course a luxury position that we have as ILVO, because we're also very close connected to policymakers. And then somebody already said it, don't bring technology, bring solutions. If they're helped by a pencil and paper, give them pencil and paper and not a computer. And then, yeah, we open the doors by of our institute. They can visit us at any time. We try to be in a real living lab, so farmers can come and look how ILVO does it, and we try to lead by example. For instance, ILVO decided not to use any pesticides or to go for 0 pesticides in all our work. Another important one for us is we have a lot of farmers or farmers' sons in our staff. We own our own farm, and one of these farms is a normal or more or less normal commercial farms. And we also try to work with farmers at their farm, at their premises, and test our technology in their farms. So in the end, it's all about building trust with these farmers. Another thing that helps in building trust, we offer services that make that they trust us. We have machinery testing. We go out to farmers to test their machinery, fertilizing, spraying. And of course, we have the luxury not to test like a private company, or we are a semi-private company. If at the end of the day, the problem is not solved, we come back the day after that, even if that means that financially, from a financially point of view, this is maybe not the best decision. We stay with the farmer until the solution is there. We also develop and design small machinery for them. So farmers with good ideas can come to our technicians, and we try to find funding for them, and we design small dedicated machinery for them. Then we have some applications out there that connect us with farmers. We have the data sharing platform Just Connect, where the farmer who owns his own data is very important, and the farmer feels that we are there to protect them and to help him how to govern his data. We have other applications like Milk Control, EKMnet. These are all software tools that lower the administrative burden of farmers, and farmers feel that if they work with this software, they are really helped, they save time, their auditing is going smoother, and if they have a problem, they can call us. Well, 5 minutes ago, a colleague was in my office here with a farmer on the line who needed help to get through the application. So that's also what I'm saying. We're doing help desk for farmers, and we try to be at all important fairs. Farmers like to go to fairs, and ILVO is there to talk to them and to offer our services at these fairs. They can see what we do. We have very good relation with farming unions, which is not always easy to keep our position in the middle. We work with cooperatives, and we try to involve real farmers in projects. To be very blunt, it's a pain when they are in a European project. They're confused about the administration. They ask a lot of questions, but we have in our flagship innovation experiments some farmers directly in the project, getting some budget in the project, and that involves them, and they are really seeing what we're doing. It is just so what I'm trying to say is we don't involve a group of farmers or the farmer union or an organization representing farmers. No, we try to get directly a farmer into the project. And then we have the luxury in Flanders that we have some specific funding channels that can help us. We have project specific that are specified for agriculture, where you have 80% governmental funding, and that are can only be used to solve farmer problems. I like also the operational groups. This is a European system, but it's very interesting. You invest a lot of money in it. You will. These projects in Flanders, at least, are very low budget, but it are places where we talk with farmers, where we exchange problems with farmers, and it gives us the basis later to develop good projects with farmers. And then also in Flanders, you have demonstration projects, which allows us to demonstrate new projects and to invite farmers to come and have a look at our projects. How does this work in practice? Well, the photo in the middle shows you how it really works. Farmers need a coffee or a beer, as you can see in the right corner, to come in the evening to us and discuss with us, give us feedback. And these are the meetings where we learn the most. Farmers discussing with our researchers and telling them what solutions are working and what is not working. I think I will end with the last slide to show our team is developing in the same approach a robot for community supported agriculture. It will be a robot that farmers can put together themselves. They can do themselves the maintenance, and everything is oriented towards the farmers who want to use the technology. I think this is more or less my talk. I hope I've been not too much over time, and I hope I have told something that could be interesting for you. Thank you.
Thank you a lot, Jurgen. We now have a little bit of time for questions and answers. We have prepared a couple of questions to start the discussion, but as we are a little bit running behind time and we have a few questions in the chat, I want to start with them. And these are the questions to all of our speakers, so please do share your experience with this. But one of the questions is from Nico, for example, who is asking, how did you assess whether or not farmers would be willing to pay for a certain solution? And I think this connects to the chip the sensor that Jurgen was talking about, but also maybe to Caroline and Mireille's presentations. In your experience, how and when did you assess whether or not farmers would be willing to pay?
Shall I give my 2 cents?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it wasn't worthwhile asking that question in the beginning. So we asked that while we were running towards the end of IOF 2020, which is about now, starting a couple of months ago. So I think they first need to have a clear idea on what the solution can do for them, and also about the price. And the pricing isn't always set in these innovative projects. So yeah, you need to find a good time to ask that question. Maybe Caroline or Jurgen also can comment.
We are struggling with the question at this moment, for instance, when we are developing the business model for our data sharing platform, Just Connect. Will a farmer be willing to pay for this? The first place where you can check it is if you talk to farming unions, but of course they have a position and they will always try to avoid to get too much costs to a farmer. So you have always to position the answer depending from the party it comes from. What we do, for instance, for lameness, we did a direct interview with farmers, asking them, for instance, what do you think that a lame cow costs you per year? And then you are very surprised that this number can be like only half or less from what you can calculate in theory that it costs. So these kind of, and then we show them our vision and we try to convince them and go in discussion with them. That is the way we try to approach it, but it's a very basic approach actually.
And what if I may add, then not surprising, maybe given my story, I always want to challenge people to think of value in a broader way than just monetary. And if you can translate that in the end to a value proposition that, for instance, gives a far more larger sense of security, or well, the what I shared before. So always challenge yourself to consider value broadly.
Yes, I think we have a very nice example for that, Leslie, in a discussion about data sharing. It seems that a group asked farmers, look, if tomorrow Amazon or AliExpress brings you the perfect app to steer your farm, would you buy it? They all say yes. Nobody asked about, yes, but what about my data and data ownership, and I want to pay more if it's safe and these things. No, the only answer was, if it helps me, if it's handy and it helps my business forward and I have less administration, I will buy it.
Inspiring. So it all depends on the value.
Inspiring is one word. It was also a little bit disappointing, to be honest, because it's just the reality.
Yeah, we've noticed that as well in smart dairy farming. Yeah, it's the concrete practicalness and accessibility that they are very open to. Yeah.
We also have another question, and that relates also to the questionnaire tool and the template that was presented, and it is whether the tool is welcomed more than face-to-face conversations, or do you preferably use it in a wider surveys? And in your experience, how it which option for communication is then better? And I would first, of course, welcome Caroline to talk about it.
Yeah, so this is Mireille.
Sorry.
I think it depends on the goal. So we use the questionnaire to assess user acceptance for all 33 IOF 2020 projects. So we needed something to really gather this data. If it's at the use case level, though, it would make more sense to, in any case, it would make sense to talk directly to the user, right? So if that's possible, that's always, I would say, the best option. But you also need the data to analyze it overall at the IOF level. That's what we were looking for, at least. But in the end, we did both. We also did the interviews, not with all use cases, but we felt that to really do a deep dive on why is the solution usable, or why not, or why would you pay for it, or why not, the option to talk about that one-on-one was a very, very nice experience. So I would recommend, if you can do that, try to do that as well, and at the same time gather data with an online tool. Does that answer the question?
I would think so. And we have also, I'm coming to the last question as well, but we have also a question from Philip, who is also working on his PhD in aquaculture platform development as well. And he wants to find out and understand at what stage the different projects are regarding value creation and value validation. And maybe we can hear from IOF at what stage you are and when did you send the questionnaires and the surveys?
Is the question for me? Sorry.
Yes, I think that from IOF we can get the most up-to-date information of where the projects are regarding value creation and validation. If I'm not mistaken, most of the projects are already validated, but
I'm not sure I'm the best to ask though, because my focus is really on the solution and the usability of the solution itself. So yes, we are validating that. I wouldn't be able to provide that now, but for as far as I can see, the largest part of all use cases are shown tremendous innovation and value creation. But the details of that I don't have them for you now.
Thank you. And maybe Jurgen, we also have a question for you, which is whether ILVO is working with animal welfare during the transportation process as well, or are you focusing on agriculture specifically?
No, I didn't. I only introduced myself very short, but ILVO is working on animal welfare and also on food. So we cover all the topics from field to fork, actually. So animal welfare is an important research topic here also. So if there are any questions on that, that's also possible. I'm not myself an expert in animal welfare. I'm not myself the expert in animal welfare, but it's certainly covered by us.
Christina, if I may add on the validation, we are planning a follow-up webinar around this topic beginning of next year, where we will look at some real-life testing on farms and cases. So hopefully then also there will be a bit more insight in that.
Great.
I think that we're running out of time, even though we had a couple of questions, but as there is going to be a follow-up, maybe we can bring them further. But it's an interesting thing to consider. Some of the questions that you might ask also yourself, because they were really to start discussions with you, is whether the farmer is the most important stakeholder in the agri-food innovation as the end user of the technology, or whether at a certain point you also need to consult with others. And at what stage your digital innovation hubs is connecting to the farmer ecosystem in innovation projects, and maybe this is something that we can bring further. Just for your information, Frank is going to conclude with upcoming webinars.
Yes, thank you, Christina, but not after thanking the presenters. Mireille and Caroline and Jurgen, thank you for your, very complimentary and complete view into farmer-centric innovation. I think the view on the early stages and the prototyping, as well as how you can set up a culture on farmer centricity from your digital innovation hubs. I think that's really valuable. So thank you for participating and presenting. We have some upcoming webinars. On 22nd of October, we will be discussing the European Digital Innovation Hubs and collaboration in the Digital Innovation Hub ecosystem. So that's again, at a broad European level of inter-digital innovation hubs collaboration. So I think this is also representing the width that SmartAgriHubs really has. In November, we will be working on the business models for digital innovation hubs. So what Jurgen says, what culture has for breakfast and lunch and dinner. So yeah, that's still a relevant topic, I think, to prepare that lunch Right. In December, we have the focus on the peer review mechanism. So how to kickstart and complement the maturity assessment that actually is active now in the SmartAgriHubs project. The maturity model that helps digital innovation hubs to assess themselves and have a good direction of moving forward. This is what we have installed for this year, and Caroline already announced a follow-up to today's webinar in January. So yeah, a lot to do, and please see you next time. Thank you for participating today.
Many thanks also to all the presenters, and we have a question of how the presentations are going to be shared. You're going to receive an email in the coming 1 or 2 days with where you can download the materials. And thank you again for all the presenters.
You're welcome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye and have a nice afternoon.